G.V. Subbaramayya, the principal of a college, was a remarkable person. Spiritual seekers are greatly indebted to him because he extracted from Bhagavan an assurance that he will protect and emancipate all of us. Bhagavan dropped his body on the 14th of April, 1950. Around April 7th or 8th, Professor Subbaramayya and Sub-Registrar Narayana Iyer went to see Bhagavan. They wept inconsolably. Bhagavan asked Subbaramayya, "What do you want?" Subbaramayya replied, "Abhayam yivale," meaning, "Give me protection." Bhagavan looked at him and said, "Ichanu," meaning, "It is given." By this, he meant not only protection, but also liberation. Sub-Registrar Narayana Iyer, who was also weeping, questioned, "Bhagavan, is it only for Subbaramayya?" Bhagavan turned to him and replied, "For everyone." In 1960, only 2 or 3 visitors used to come to Ramanashramam, and they were not even aware of Bhagavan's teachings. Today, Bhagavan's message is spreading everywhere. It is not just the teaching as a philosophy that is spreading, but the essence of the truth about oneself. Everyone is waking up to this, and this is the abhayam, the protection and the liberation that Bhagavan promised. Bhagavan once said that every being has to eventually come to Arunachala, not to the physical Arunachala, but to the Arunachala within. Everyone has to awaken to the teaching of I am. Bhagavan's abhayam is ever there, but we owe it to the professor that Bhagavan gave a verbal affirmation a week before he dropped the body. Subbaramayya came to Bhagavan in 1930 in a state of grief. He was overwhelmed by sorrow at the loss of his 2-year-old son and was wandering around India. On one of these wanderings, someone advised him to go to Ramana Maharshi. Another person, coincidentally, gave him Bhagavan's Upadesasaram in Telugu around the same time. His immediate response was that if a Tamilian could write such great spiritual poetry in Telugu, then he must be a spiritual giant. So he visited the Maharshi, still weighed down by great sorrow. Bhagavan's very first look was filled with such grace that it made his sorrow vanish. According to Subbaramayya, the pole star of my life is of course my Satguru Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. At a time of distress, I was drawn to him, and the very first darshan plunged me into the ocean of peace and bliss. Ever since, he has been the light of my life. He is my mother. Bhagavan is my father. Bhagavan is my guru. Bhagavan is my own. Bhagavan is my all in all. And in him, my little self and all its moorings were consummated and sublimated. In a word, he is the embodiment of grace. At every step, even with the least incidents of my life, I have come to feel with a growing consciousness the guiding hand of that divine grace that is named as Sri Ramana. However, even after this look, Subbaramayya was besieged by a sincere doubt. He questioned, "Bhagavan, the Bhagavad Gita says that mortals cast off their worn bodies and acquire new bodies, just as one casts off old clothes and wears new ones. How does this apply to the death of mere infants whose bodies are fresh and new?" Bhagavan looked at him with compassion and replied, "How do you know that the body of the dead child was not worn out? It may not be apparent, but unless it is worn out, it will not die. That is the law of nature." Straightway, Subbaramayya's sorrow and misery disappeared. Subbaramayya, a good conversationalist, was also a scholar of Sanskrit, Telugu, and English. He started translating Bhagavan's works into English. His translation of the Ramana Gita is appreciated even today. Earlier, he had met a Mahatma who had initiated him into a mantra. He was chanting the mantra very diligently. After coming to Bhagavan and having his darshan, he couldn't continue with the mantra. He felt rather guilty and wondered whether he had done something wrong. He went to Bhagavan with his problem. "Bhagavan, suddenly the mantra has stopped. I am afraid." Bhagavan responded, "You have done a lot of japa using the mantra. The fruit of the mantra has brought you to here. Why do you need to fear?" At a much later date, he asked,
What is the difference between japa repeated in the mind and meditation? Bhagavan replied, they are the same. In both, the mind is focused on one thing, either on the japa or on the self. Mantra, japa, dhyana, and vichara are all different names only. As long as they require some kind of effort, we give them these names. When the goal is realized, they go on effortlessly. What was formerly the means now becomes the goal. Some time later, Subbaramayya had a different kind of problem. He had been practicing breath control as taught by Swami Ramatirtha in his works. Subbaramayya continued the practice at a particular time every day. One day, he suddenly felt a terrible sensation as though his head would crack and break into pieces. In spite of stopping the practice, the sensation kept recurring at the usual time of his practice. One night, when Bhagavan was alone, he approached him with his problem. Bhagavan, laughing, "What? Are you again seized by fear? These are the experiences that people have when they practice yoga without the immediate guidance of a guru. But you have come to me, so why should you fear?" Then, in an undertone, Bhagavan added, "Next time you get that sensation, think of me, and you will be all right." These words are to be inscribed in our hearts in gold. Whatever form of sadhana you are following, whenever you are in pain, think of the name of the Master. Subbaramayya personally told me that there was never a next time.